Good morning, my loves. Happy Tuesday. Lovely day here at the lake. Actually, it's very overcast and the air quality is 171, which is hazardous. So, oh well, take it for what it is. And it's going to be 111 again today. Yeah, it's Arizona. Just go with the flow. But I'll give you a quick look outside. It's just very overcast. I guess there was a dust storm last night that I missed. Anyway, today's topic is very important. If you have kids, grandkids, nieces, nephews, please listen, okay? And this could possibly apply to you as an adult. So the voice we hear, that little voice in our head, that comes from your childhood. Yeah. So often that little voice in your head is your parents' voice. It may be reminding you not to do something or to do something. It may be intimidating and threatening. That little voice matters. It sincerely matters. I talked to a parent last night, 3 kids, and they're worrying about the new school year, and it's just starting. They have an older child that is an academic, but has a mouth and an attitude and is always in trouble at home and at school for their mouth and their attitude. They have another child that is a jock, will most likely be captain of the football team kind of guy. Has the whole attitude that goes along with that, and it's always a problem. And then they have a third child that is just a good, solid student, a good kid, never gives anybody any trouble. It's an AB student, but that's the one they're upset about. That's the one they came to me about, because this child isn't meeting their standards. We talked about it. This was ridiculous. They fail to recognize the good qualities in this child. They expect perfection. They expect this child to be an academic, a straight A student like their oldest sibling, or to be an outstanding athlete like the second sibling. They fail to recognize this is a solid student doing good grades, good work. You never hear anything except praise from the teachers and the school. That's not enough. When this child goes in for tests, math test, history test, whatever, the day before, as they're going, the night before, as they're getting ready to go to school, the parent is saying, you better get an A on this or you don't bother to come home. I don't want anything less than 95% or whatever. This kid's going into the 4th grade. The child, and I talked to the child privately, and the child said they're ready for the test, they studied, they're ready, they go in, they sit down, and they hear their parents' voice in their head, and they freeze. Because what if they don't get the grade they want? And they're sitting there listening to this voice, and they're just frozen like a deer in headlights, and they end up getting a B or a C on the test, but they know the material. I understand that. I did not go through that myself, but I do understand that. And I talked to the parents, and initially they said, that's ridiculous. That's just totally ridiculous. We're just encouraging our child. I said, no, you're intimidating your child. There's a difference. Telling a kid going into the 4th grade, if you don't get an A on a test, don't come home? Seriously? Back off. Plain and simple, back off. Tell your child, you studied, I want you to do the best you can. I'm proud of you no matter what. I love you no matter what. Let's just see how well you do. Try that. Just try it. Quit being a harpy, You don't realize this kid never gives anybody any problems. You have an older child that is an A student, but wow, you've got your hands full. They said, yeah, I know it's always a problem, but they get good grades. I said, academically, yeah, but socially, where's it going to get them in college? Where's that going to get them when they're old, after they're 18 and they're getting into fights? Well, they hadn't thought about that. Think about that. And your kiddo that's the jock, that's great. Oh, they're going to go to college and they're going to be a pro, and well, that's great. Have a backup plan. Not that they're not going to go to college, but they may not make, first string their first year. Well, they have to. No, they don't. That's just it. There's always going to be somebody better. There's always going to be somebody better. Take the pressure off your kids and just let them be them. Love your child for who they are, not who you're demanding that they are, not who you wish they were. Love them for who they are. Take the pressure off and let them flourish. For some parents, this will make sense. For others, it's going to piss them off, and I don't particularly care because that's how I see it. I hate to see kids struggle over tests. They know the material. You can talk to them about the material. They can talk all day long about history or language or whatever, but you put a test in front of them and they freeze because of the threats from home, the intimidation. Well, you're not going to go to the ball game. You're not having a sleepover. You're not doing this. You're not doing that unless you get an A. Maybe they're not an A student. Maybe they're an AB student, you know? Maybe they're a B student. Love them for who they are. Did you live up to your parents' expectations? All of them? Did you? Were you the perfect child your parents wanted you to be? Did they love you anyway? Or did they tell you that they were disappointed in you all the time? Are you carrying that forward to your kids, that generational trauma? Are you passing that along without even realizing it? Yeah. Think about when it was you and how you felt. And there are some parents that had very sheltered childhoods. They may have lived in a very small town. Now they're married with a family and they live in a bigger city, and it's a completely different culture at school. You have to keep that in mind. Allow your child to be a child. You know, some kids right now are going from grammar school to middle school, and they're struggling with that. It's a big thing. It's a big jump because you have 12-year-olds who are trying to act like they're 16, who are trying to look like they're 16. Okay, some of that is to be expected. I think we all wanted to grow up a little fast, but that doesn't mean you have to encourage your child to do it. They don't need to be wearing crop tops and short shorts and silly things like that. Recognize the age of your child. They need to dress and behave appropriately. Okay? Just be aware. Okay? Be aware of your child's age and what is appropriate for that age. A child 12, 13 years old, do they really need to be dating? Now, they're going to have little boyfriends, girlfriends at school and say that they're going steady. Honey, it doesn't mean anything. They're not going anywhere. They're just friends at school. Just let them do it. It's fine. It's not that big a deal. There's no reason to panic about it. But be aware. Be involved in your child's life. Don't come down too hard. Be aware of what they're wearing to school. Be aware if they're doing their homework, who they're hanging out with. Be aware. Be involved. Know your kids, know their friends, know the teachers. Know if your child's turning in homework. Know how they're doing on tests. Ask the teacher, what can we do at home to make this a better environment here so they will do better there? Because it starts at home. And so often parents don't realize the kiddo is mirroring the parent's behavior. I talked to a parent, gosh, I guess it was over the weekend, last week maybe, that they consider themselves passionate and expressive. Well, they scream and they yell, even in the therapy sessions. They scream and they yell at their child, and they get mad when the child screams and yells back. They're exactly alike. These two are exactly alike because the child grew up listening to this. To the child, this is normal behavior. This is how we act when we're upset. They scream and they yell and they demand and they throw things because that's what mom does. That's the normal, around here. And then they get in trouble other places when they behave like that. The mom just doesn't see it until I pointed it out. Initially, she was defensive. I am not. I'm just passionate. I said, well, so's your kid. They're just passionate. They're just expressive as they break windows, as they throw things, as they scream and they yell and they slam doors. Where did they learn that? When they were little, and you would get upset with your husband and you two were fighting, how would you behave? Would you scream and you yell and throw pillows and, oh, I don't know what I'm going to do with you? That child's watching every move. And that child's thinking, okay, this is the norm here. This is how families are. Yeah. You're teaching them how to handle life. You're teaching them how to handle stress, grief, joy, sorrow, pain, suffering. They're learning all of that from you. Be mindful. Be self-aware. Be kind. Be gentle. And love your child for who they are, not for who you want them to be.